Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee for Closers. My name is Alex Wellings, and I am your host. This week, I have a very special interview. I was able to hop on the horn and interview Mr. Johnny Rozier out of Louisiana. Talk to him a little bit about how he's made it so successful working in the federal marketplace on the road. If you guys don't know Johnny's system, he basically gets in an RV and travels the entire country. And he has done an incredible job grooming a sales process that works in that environment. And so I really was excited to get him on the horn and talk to him a little bit about not only the sales process that he's groomed over the years, but also talk to him a little bit about his client appreciation and referral process as well. So we're going to dive into a little bit of that this conversation. We're also talking to him a little bit about some of the most commonly heard objections, which is something that I'll probably do on every one of these casts going forward, is talking with these great advisors about how they handle objections on the road. And then also just talking a little bit about how he got his start in the federal marketplace. So this week, very, very special week. I hope you guys enjoy the cast. If you guys have any direction that you'd like us to go with the cast, please don't hesitate to shoot us an email or give us a call and let us know what you'd like to hear more about. But again, guys, our goal here is to get you guys advice from the best in the business, and Johnny is one of those guys. So without any further delay, let's jump on in with my interview with Mr. Johnny Rozier. Let's go.
All right, Johnny, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on. I know you've been with us for quite a while now, and all I wanted to do, or you're probably one of the guys I'm most excited to have on the show, because your success in the federal market has been just wild over the last couple of years. So you've really taken the nuts and bolts or pieces that we have to get you in front of federal employees, and you've just made it into just a monstrosity of success. So thank you very much for being on the show, Johnny.
Hey, I appreciate the comments, and I'm honored that you invited me to participate today. So looking forward to it, and looking forward to 2020 here.
All right, great. So Johnny, I always like to start these off by basically just asking how you got involved in it. In particular, to you, I'd like to ask how you got going in the federal business. So maybe talk a little bit about what got you into the independent channels, and then why the federal market. Why'd you get involved there?
Okay. Well, I've got a pretty varied background. I worked for MetLife for 20 years and retired at age 40, and then ran my family's payroll deduction business and TPA firm for about 17 or 18 years until some of my family members passed away and we sold that business. But back in 2003, I got involved with one of the federal agencies in the country, with working with some of their association members. But actually then it was just doing supplemental benefits, life insurance and disability and cancer and just supplemental insurance. And then over time, I realized, this is a significant marketplace that's way above where I'm currently at. So I started, gearing myself up and learning the retirement side of the business, learning the federal benefits. So over time, we mastered that. And then joining Megastar has just been a blessing because of the FIBA brand and the ability for Megastar and FIBA to get us in front of federal employees. And we, myself and my team, we kind of look at ourselves as federal benefit experts. And I say we kind of do. We totally do. I tell people right. I'm not a general practitioner. I'm a federal benefit surgeon. I mean, that's really the way we look at it. Right. And when I build a team member, consider a new team member, I literally tell them, our only negative you won't like is geography, because we go wherever federal employees are. We don't try to do it all in our backyard. So it's just been a blessing to work with these federal employees, and they're literally starved for somebody who can help them, because the HR department of most federal agencies is just not geared up to giving a federal employee the personal attention that they need in making all their decisions.
Well, and that's such a good point too, because I oftentimes have talked with advisors that are coming in to Megastar or wanting to get into the Fed space, and you've kind of taken it to a whole new level where it's like, okay, I can have as much success or I can have a limited amount of success in the Fed space in my backyard there in Louisiana, or I could really make this a huge thing for me in my practice. You can't specialize in a niche, I guess, in a small area. Niche marketing, if you really want to scale it up, you really have to travel, and you've been able to do that better than anybody I've ever met. How did you approach that? And I guess, yeah. So how did you approach that going forward? I mean, what was your thought there?
I mean, excuse me, got a little head cold there. I decided, because I live in a small town, my whole county, which we say parish in Louisiana, but I mean, we only got 6,000 or 8,000 people. So even if I was a general practitioner, I would have to go outside, my 30-mile, 50-mile radius to make the kind of income that I wanted to make. And I had spent most of my career in New Orleans or Baton Rouge, where they were larger metropolitan areas, but decided to move back to a rural area in my, last half of my life. And so I love to travel. So that's a big advantage. My wife likes to travel, so that is another advantage, and she works with me as my administrative person. So travel is not a negative to me. And I really don't want to be a general practitioner. I don't want to try to be all things to all people. So I've just decided just to focus literally on the federal market. And for 18 years prior to that, when I was in the payroll deduction business, I literally only focused on the public school market. I've really never been a general practitioner. I've always taken one particular industry and just made darn sure that I was the expert in that place, and I've branded myself that way. And I think we've been successful at branding ourselves as, we are the federal experts. So travel's just not an issue with me at all. I told you guys when I first joined you tell me where there's a FEBA opportunity and we will be there. And, I've been lucky in the respect that the people I've brought on, for the most part, now some of them live in bigger areas, and that's okay. But, most of my people really don't mind traveling and getting on a plane and go somewhere for 4 or 5 days, or taking their own automobile and staying there and doing well financially, and then coming home and enjoying the fruits of your labor,
Right. Yeah. And so let's talk about that. So, because now you've kind of grown to a point where it's not just you. You have a downline of agents or a group of advisors that you work with that are all part of your organization.
Right.
How do you structure it on the road? You go out, you do the speaking, they sit on the appointments, or how does it work when you're on the road? That's a common question with advisors, is like, okay, Alex, if I'm going to go to this town that I'm not, I don't have my home office in, what do I do for appointments? So maybe you can walk us through how the road show works in your world.
Right. Okay. Our road show works. I pick at least one, maybe two advisors, depending on the market size, but usually two, and they travel with me, alongside until we get to the event. I am literally the speaker, the educator, the instructor. I play totally that role. They introduce me as the professional from out of town that's the expert. I introduce them as the host of that event, and I let these folks know, that it's basically a group of people on my team that are federal benefit experts. So I more or less pump them up at the beginning of the seminar to say the people in the back of the room are the folks that are going to stay behind, because I cannot give you 44 years worth of my experience in an hour and 15 minutes. All I can do is point out some things that you need to know and point out maybe things you don't know. But the people in the back of the room are also federal experts, and they could just as easily be standing up here doing the presentation as me. But they're the ones that's going to stay behind and visit with you individually if you so choose to do that. And they're going to help get all your questions answered. And then I also add in our federal counsel that you guys have put together. And I say there are going to be questions you're going to ask me or ask them that we don't know. And we have a federal counsel made up of retired federal employees. And we will get you an answer within 24 business hours, guaranteed. So that's how we start the seminar. And then whoever I bring with me, whichever advisor, has to have the federal retirement consultant designation. So they have to have the proof that they are the expert, and they have to commit to staying there another 4 to 6 days and literally have initial appointments with people and hopefully stay there long enough, 5 to 6 days, to have the initial appointment and get the data to run their federal benefit reports, and then have time to schedule the second appointment while they're there and go ahead and see them and conduct business that way. So whoever goes with me has to commit to 5 to 12 business days after that they're going to stay and work whichever leads want us to see them. And we have about 75 to 80-something% conversion rate. So if 20 people attend the workshop, we'll make 16 to 18 appointments. A lot of times we have 100% ratio, but it averages 80% convert into appointments.
So it's a 2-appointment process, though. That's pretty much what you guys stick to: first appointment, fact finding; second appointment, present a solution.
Yeah, most of them are a 2-interview process. That's right. Yeah, we give them a list when they leave the workshop. We give them a little card of and I apologize for the background noise. I'm actually at a hospital while we're doing this interview. But, we give them a little card when they leave the seminar, if they did make an appointment, of what they need to bring to their first appointment. And they need to bring their earning leave statement, which we all call pay stub, but they call it. And you have to talk their language. So,
right.
You have to say, bring your ELS, okay, because that's the way they talk. Bring your TSP report. Bring your tax return from last year. So we give them a laundry list of what they need to bring. And we give them on the front of that card, it tells them what time their appointment is. We meet them at the hotel or the meeting, library, wherever we had the seminar. That's where we meet with them.
Okay.
So they already know to come back to the same place that we've met with them. Now, sometimes, there's exceptions. Sometimes they'll say, can we meet here or there? But we tend to meet them at the same place where the seminar was. And that way we're not driving all over the city from one appointment to the other. We're stationary. Right. And, we literally have appointments, and most of the appointments are after 4 p.m. because, they work. And so a lot of times we're running reports during the daytime. And after 3 or 4 o'clock is when they come in for that initial appointment. And we're flexible. If they have an extra hour to sit there, we'll tell them, hey, go get you some coffee. We'll run your report, and we'll get back with you here in the next few minutes if we have that kind of time. The main thing, though, if we do make a second appointment, they don't leave that first appointment without that second appointment on the calendar. Okay. Right. Just like going to the dentist. When you leave the doctor or the dentist office, they go ahead and schedule your checkup for 6 months from now, and they don't really give you an option. And we do the same thing. We'll have your report ran by tomorrow afternoon. What time tomorrow afternoon or the next day can you come back by? And we'll need 45 minutes to an hour of your time on this second visit.
So you set the expectation there too. You set the expectation on like how long the appointments are going to be and everything.
Right. And questions we ask people, during the seminar, I ask them this. On the first visit, I ask them this, why did you come to the seminar? What is it that you don't know that you want us to teach you? So we probe a lot with questions, easy questions. And of course, the number one answer is HR can't help me. But we give them a chance to tell us why they're there and why they need help and what do they need help on. So that's kind of what our first appointment is about, not just collecting the data, because they could email us the data, but right. we've got some specific initial fact finding questions
You're building some rapport, and then you're asking them some questions, particularly about what you're looking at on those forms, and you're setting that appointment basically for the next the follow up.
Right.
And so, does the second appointment fall in that 5 to 12 days? Is that what you're trying to accomplish there? Two appointments within those 12 days? Okay.
Yes. The sooner they attend a seminar and you can get to that second appointment. In other words, as short a period of time as possible. The longer it lingers, the less of a quality prospect they become. Your closing ratio starts to dwindle the longer that time is spread out. Now, sometimes you can't do anything about that, but that's our goal, is to control traffic in a timely manner. Absolutely.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. All right, so we've talked about the fact that you're in a niche market, and that the only way you were able to really grow this thing to be such a monstrosity that it's become, in a good way, I should say, is by going beyond just your local community. And now you've talked a little bit about your sales process, but another thing that you do particularly well, and you might not realize it, is your referral record and your client appreciation events that you've done.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about how you've been able, because the federal marketplace is so rich with opportunity for referrals and networking and such. How have you been able to do that so much better than everybody else in this program?
Well, to me, it's simple, so I don't really understand why we're better than somebody else. But they evidently just don't remember to do it, because what we do, like we're having a seminar tomorrow night in New Orleans here. We have 29 registered people as of 2 days ago. We probably have 35 by now. Now, we will call every one of those people ahead of time and remind them that we will start on time. We remind them of the address and who's going to be there to greet them. So, we let them know about. So, but when we call them, we start that referral process right then. Is there another coworker? Is there another coworker that maybe didn't see the email invitation or maybe overlooked it that you would like to bring? We don't tell them we have an extra seat or that somebody dropped out. We don't use any little tactics like that. We just simply say, is there another coworker that you'd like to bring that maybe missed the invitation? Now, we're playing on two things there. We're doing what we're supposed to, but secondly, they don't want to come by themselves. They would like to bring somebody with them because they're going to a strange place to meet a person they've never met before. And so they feel more comfortable if they can bring somebody with them. So that's the first step of that process. And then the other step is at the end of the seminar. I literally tell them, we will be back in your area periodically, and we would like to have you help us spread the word, because people come up and say, last week I had people in Rhode Island say, man, everybody needs to come to your seminars. I said, well, that's where we need your help, because most people don't read all their emails. And so we're constantly asking for referrals. And even on that second appointment, where even if we don't transact business with them, we still ask them, who else do you work with that we need to introduce ourselves and our services to? Mm. I apologize for that cough. I tell all my team, this process starts with that invitation that you guys send out for us, and they say yes to that. So that's a yes. Then they say yes when we call and confirm they're going to attend. Then they say yes by showing up. Then they say yes by setting up a first appointment and bringing tax returns and earning leave statement. These people are literally bringing sensitive data to a complete stranger.
Right.
And then they say yes to that second appointment. So they've said yes so many times, it's kind of difficult for them to say no to you after that, because they've said yes all the way through that pipeline of that process. But the other thing we do is we tell them. We had a lady last week specifically say, I've got 5 more employees that should have been here. Well, why don't we do a little lunch and learn for those 5 people because it may be 4 or 5 months before we do an official seminar again. So we can set up a lunch and learn and bring in pizza, or you guys can meet us after work. So we do a lot of spin-off, what we call lunch and learns, or just mini versions of our workshop, and it's from the people that we're visiting with. So I think a lot of people that are in the seminar business, and this is my perception, so I may be wrong, but I think that they feel like, and I'm talking about financial advisors, I think they feel like that somebody should do all the work for them, and all they have to do is complete applications, and they get to skip a lot of the process. It's just not. You still got to have marketing and sales skills to convert those seminar people, attendees, to a client.
Right. Those are all beautiful points. I mean, that's exactly right. And I do see that sentiment a lot of guys and gals coming into working with megastars, kind of changing that perception and saying, hey, look, we can only do so much over here. But some of this, as far as the residual benefits of doing a workshop in the Fed space, come from some good old-fashioned hard work, instilling good referral incentives, those types of things.
Yes. Yep. And then when we go back to cities, we've been going to same cities now for 2 and 3 and 4 years now. We do client appreciation events, and these are minor. These are minor events compared to some advisors who work in a large metropolitan area and maybe just have one event a year. But when we go back to an area that we've been to and we've got clients, we literally call every client and say, hey, we're having another event. You don't really need to attend unless you just want to, but we want to know who else do you think needs to be there, and we're having a pizza party for our clients there, and we want you there.
Right.
And it may be, nothing more than pizza in the hotel lobby that we reserve, and of course, the seminar attendees, because it's always after that seminar, and we don't advertise the seminars we're going to feed anybody, but at the end of the seminar, when they're leaving, they see other people that they work with out there eating free pizza, and they stop, and that just spreads the word. They say, well, wait a minute, you're doing business with these guys, and I'll tell you another thing that actually helps us. I believe us being the out of town expert, I think that actually is to our advantage as opposed to the local person. And I never put down the local people, but I do say this: there's a big difference between a federal financial benefits coach than there is a financial advisor that's a general practitioner. And if I wanted to have heart surgery, I'm not going to a general practitioner. I'm going to somebody that only does heart surgery. And so I think, because a lot of people say, the first question I get from advisors, well, don't you think they want to do business with a local person? And my answer is, no, they want to do business with somebody that's an expert that knows what they're doing. That's who they want to do business with. And it doesn't matter whether that person's local or not local. I mean, that I've got, yeah.
That's a good point, because that's the kind of world we're living now, where with the power of the internet and the information age that we live in, we're able to get access from experts, and we realize now that all of the experts might not live in our small town of Tarpon Springs, Florida, or in Gina. It's a little bit different. We realize that the expert might live in California or might live in Texas or something like that, and that person being able to travel to us really kind of sets us at an advantage. And so, yes, I do see that as a great way to overcome the objection is by making that analogy to the medical world.
Yeah, you can use. I mean, I'm sitting here at Tulane Medical Center right now. There's people here from Central and South America because they're coming here because this is a high-level place. My son had cancer. He lives in Washington, D.C. Obviously, that's a large metropolitan area, but he wanted his treatment done at MD Anderson in Houston because we know that is a significant place. People and their finances, their Social Security. I mean, these people are making thousands and thousands of dollars a month decision. I mean, they're making high-level decisions that affect their finances for the rest of their life, and they don't necessarily just want to do business with the guy down the street. Right. I mean, even in my small town, I just met with a client earlier this week, and she said, my husband called you last week to ask you a bunch of questions. I said, yes. She said, that's because his sister-in-law works for an insurance company, and she got mad because I did business with you. And I just point blank told her, Johnny's an expert. She said, I didn't really tell her she was not an expert, but in a nutshell, that's really what I told her is Johnny is an expert. So people will even override doing business with family members if they know the person is an expert. Right. So I learned a phrase a long time ago, and this sounds corny, but I learned it from a guy back in 1977 or somewhere in that time frame. And it says, when you know and you know that confidence replaces fear. And that's what I try to teach our advisors. Make sure that you know and that you know, because that confidence level when you're dealing with a client is going to come across, and people want to do business with someone that knows what they're doing.
Heck yeah, absolutely. That's so true. So true.
Yep.
Well, so that's all great stuff, and I truly appreciate you running through, kind of your history and how your sales process has worked and referral strategies and stuff. That's exactly what this show is looking to accomplish. But I always like to wrap things up. I don't want to waste too much more of your time. I know you're dealing with your wife in the hospital and everything, and so
that's
you've got
okay.
a lot. But I always like to wrap these up with just some quick objections and such that the industry gets. So I like to just run everybody through one objection, and then I want you to pick, maybe you can think about it, an objection that you hear a lot and what you typically say to get through that. So the first objection I always like to ask about is, I'll think about it. What is it when a consumer says, I'll think about it? What goes through your head, and what do you typically say to that consumer, whether it be, giving them time or not,
Okay. Well, I was taught that the first thing people say is not what they really mean. So I just assume that's a phrase that they're just stating because they don't know how to tell you they're not going to buy right this second. So they're coming up with a watered down version of, I'm not ready to sign these papers. So in that particular one there, whether it's life insurance or whether it's a rollover, I say, I totally understand that. When did you want me to get back with you? Now, I'm leading them somewhere else. I'm not going to end with that. Well, now they can say, get back with me Monday, and we'll cover that first. Okay. If they give me 3 days, give me a week, whatever, I say fine. That's no problem, and I let them watch me put that on my calendar. Okay, I'm gonna touch base with you Monday, February, whatever, at such and such a time. So I let them watch me record that information, and then I say, let me ask you this: while you're thinking about it, what information have I not provided you that you want me to get to you during this next 7 or 8 days to help you make a decision?
That's
okay,
powerful.
because as far as I'm concerned, think about it. It's just a watered down version of saying I don't want to buy yet, but I'm too scared to tell you that. Okay, so that's what I say. Now, when I say what information, when do you want me to get back with you? And if they say, well, we'll just get back with you, that's pretty much telling me they're not going to do business with me. Okay. So if they give you a date and time, and it may be 3 weeks from now, they're literally making some kind of decision. But usually when you say, what else can I get you to help you make a decision during this 5 to 10 days, they're usually going to say something else. And they're going to say something like, well, no, you've given me all the data. I just want to run this by so-and-so. Okay. So they start telling you what it is, what the real objection is what they're doing. But that is the toughest one to overcome. But if they say they'll just get back with me, I'll say, great. If I hadn't heard from you in 90 days, is it okay if I touch base with you? And they say, sure. And, that one's pretty much a dud probably. But I say that if you keep in touch with them, they'll come around. Yeah.
They sure do. They sure do. Okay. And then what about one particular to the federal world? What kind of objection do you hear time and time again that's easily overcomable? Like maybe one that might have stumped a younger Johnny in the Fed space that you've now learned to conquer? Maybe something like that.
Okay. Probably the most common one that we hear. Well, I'm just going to leave my TSP. I've decided just to leave it there, and at TSP, because they've been convinced that being a federal employee, that their benefits are great, and that they actually think sometimes their benefits are the greatest. And I tell them, you do not have the greatest benefits. You have good, solid benefits. But we hear that a lot. Well, I'm just going to leave my TSP program where it's at because of the low fees. And then we go through the scenarios. We have actually a typed up list. Here's the reasons you don't want to leave your money at TSP after you retire. Now, I tell them this as well. I said, do you know how complicated it is to get on a website you've never been on and try to order something and navigate around? Have you ever contacted TSP and tried to transact business? And I've got a specific example I use. I said, I've got an 82-year-old retired doctor who still practices medicine, but she is a retired federal employee. And I've been to her house as many as 4 times in one day to help her transact TSP business, because they got to send you a code to your phone. You got to know how to text that code in, the text code they send you. I said, it's very complicated to do business with TSP, especially the older you get. And you need a human being. I said, well, first of all, do you have a TSP customer service rep that is dedicated to you? Well, that's a loaded question, because that doesn't exist. I said, if you needed to reach me on Saturday because you need to get money out by Tuesday, would you rather do that? Or if it happens to be Saturday before Martin Luther King holiday, and now you got to wait till Tuesday, and then you got to know how to use the TSP wizard. Then you got to go get something notarized. If you're married, your spouse has got to get it notarized. I said, if you need money fairly quickly, wouldn't you rather call a human being who says they can get it to you in 3 or 4 days? So I really push the fact that we are a face-to-face person they're looking at. But that's the most common one we get, is I'm going to leave it there. And we've got a pretty long laundry list of reasons they should not. I can get that to any advisor that would like that. So they'll just have a copy of TSP versus a private plan. It doesn't name a specific private plan. It's just generic reasons why they shouldn't leave it there. And I tell every federal employee, you will not give me a good enough reason to leave your money at TSP. And I say, now, I'm not going to argue with you about it, but you will never give me a reason that I will get up and walk away and say, darn, I had not thought of that. That is a good reason to leave it there. I said, there are no good reasons to leave $300.5 million pots of money with an agency that's closed every holiday. You don't know who the person is that you're dealing with. You get a different person every time you call, and you go through a phone maze. That's a whole lot different than having my cell phone and can contact me directly anytime you want. So that's how we try to overcome that.
That's powerful.
And we don't,
really
yeah,
powerful.
we don't, yeah.
Well, Johnny, I've been so impressed with the growth of your firm in the short time that we've been together, 3 years or so now. And I'm so grateful to have you on our team here. I appreciate you being on the show. And I hope to have you on a bunch more times talking about more and more of these topics. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate you guys at Megastar and all you do for us. We've landed in a great place, and I seriously, I'm not saying this as a compliment, but 2019 was one of the most fun years I've ever had, and I've been doing this a long, long time. But it's really become a fun thing to do, and we appreciate all the things that you guys bring to the table to help us.
Well, it's a mutual relationship, my man. Thank you so much for being on the show again, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Okay, have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Once again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on yet another Coffee for Closers. Next week, we have a great episode with Shay. She is probably the best confirmation caller I have ever had the pleasure of chatting with, and she's going to divulge her secrets, how she gets 90% of those that register for her digital workshops to show up. We're going to jump into those secrets and more next week on Coffee for Closers.